Hello, everybody. Road Warrior 627 here, and welcome back to another Thoroughbred Racing preview. We've got the last video of the Belmont Spring Summer Meet. We're going to be talking about the Stars and Stripes card on Saturday, July the 9th, over here at beautiful Belmont Park. It's day number 43 of 44 of the meet. A meet that has been very kind to me. And hopefully I don't manage to blow my ROI in the last 3 days. I think it's big enough that I won't, but at least I could probably try to cut it down a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So we've got 11 races, we got 4 stakes, we got 2 big ones for the 3-year-olds on the turf. We want to establish some things first. There's no morning lines for most of the races. I just put in the morning lines on the paper you see in front of you for the 4 stakes races. The other ones don't have them. And as you can see on the left here, the numbers don't look like they're from DRF. Well, that's because I had to enter those manually as well. So I did my best with that. It's pretty logical. There's only 2 races with coupled entries in them. And then one more thing I want to get out of the way first. You may have noticed a month ago I said I was going to do an episode of One Turn Route, episode number 8, talking about the very bad relationship between the racetracks and the fans, especially how the racetracks treat the fans. Well, I decided to hold it off till after the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. Then I pretty much forgot about it and had other things to do. And now there's another reason I'm holding it off, something that I really can't reveal, but will probably be coming out soon. So I'm waiting for that to happen first before I release that video, and I'm going to talk about it and get very angry in it. So I hope you'll look forward to that, but you probably won't look forward to the news. Anyway, we're going to talk about these 11 races, and I've got 3 guests today. I'm going to introduce you to them in the order that they're going to talk. So first, we've got Jack Sargent from Racing Rundown.
Just delighted to be here. Absolutely charmed to be joining you today.
As you could tell, we are going to have a lot of Europeans talking about on this show in those 2 big turf races. We've got Sammy Roseman.
Hello.
And we've got, for the second time on my channel, Aryan, also known as Justified 3107, who I believe was on the Derby preview. Is that right, Aryan?
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course, and it's good. Any of you guys are welcome all the time. And Sammy and Jack, thank you for helping to keep this channel afloat. I'm pretty sure it'd be dead without the 2 of you. So thanks. Anyway, we're going to talk about the first race here. If we talk about the weather for 5 seconds, we're supposed to get some pretty significant rain on Thursday night, about ½ an inch. But let's be honest here. The Belmont turf courses are so dry right now that it would take a monsoon to affect them. I really don't care about that rain coming, and it's not going to change anything we really do regardless. I doubt it. It'll probably be firm by Saturday again. So this first race is a maiden, low-level maiden at 1.16 miles on the Widener, and I originally did not have any ideas in this race, but I did come up with a couple, but I'll let you guys talk about it first if you have any opinions. Jack?
I will be sitting these first couple of races out because I'm still working on stuff for Racing Rundown. So I apologize if anybody wanted stuff from me for these first couple of races, but I don't have anything.
And Sammy?
I like the 2 looking grand. Off the layoff last start, just kind of set the pace right off the pace and just flattened out a little bit. Finished 6th. The blinkers come on here and it's dropping from a maiden special weight to a 40,000 race. Charlie Baker's been absolutely incredible this meet. 30%. I know Andrew's a big fan of him. I think this horse is really gonna like the drop down in class, and the second start off layoff will help this horse. And there's not anything else really in the field. I guess if you look somewhere else, is addicted to you, but horse is a 1 in 10 start. So how much can you really trust that horse? So I'll land on number 2, looking grand.
Yeah, Charlie Baker. You might think that Chad Brown or Christophe Clement's my favorite trainer, and logic says you'd be right, but really, in reality, it's Charlie Baker. I just love the guy. He's such an honest dude. He's got cool horses. He takes horses that aren't that good and makes them better. Kind of like a Dave Dunk. I really like Charlie Baker. So I'm going to be using him a little bit in this race just because I think he's kind of the not worst out of the rest of the field. This is not a good group of horses. But what I do in these situations is I tend to drift to the horses that have the least amount of races. And I like first time starters, as you all know, but I also like second time starters that showed nothing in their first start. And there's two of them in this race. That would be the 3 Kimbo Dancer for Michelle Nevin. Picks up Rosario this time. Of course, I'm not his biggest fan, if you know me. And then also the 9, who I'm actually even intrigued with a little more. That's John Kimmel's Whiskey Warrior. John Kimmel's notorious for having horses run better second time out. This horse was against a pretty slow pace in the horse's first race, comes back 3 weeks, second start. I think you're going to get a much better improvement. And I know Cancel hasn't really been winning. I think he's been actually having a sneaky good meet. And I usually find a lot of things to complain about with him, but I haven't found as many things to complain about this meet with him. So I'm going to be using those two, the 3 and the 9, with the 2. Although I will not be spending a lot of money on this race. Probably in the $12 to $15 range at most. Aaron, do you have anything on the... I'm just going to check. I don't think you do, but do you have anything on the undercard races?
No, I didn't really check those races out yet. Probably until Friday.
Okay, so let's move on to the second race now. This is a claimer on the dirt, the exact kind of race that I've been trying to stay out of. Sammy, you got anything in here?
I like Aryan's horse. There's nothing really in this race too, but there's a couple of entry with Tail of Mineshaft, and this just seems like a classic Aryan example where, I mean, come on, he doesn't have to ride any claiming 16,000, but he gets aboard a horse that's 1 for 2 at the distance with a third. Hasn't been in form, but is dropping in for 16. Last year, this horse showed some form going into this year a little bit, so I'll take the couple entry here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't like betting entries at all. So, by the way, that's the one post position 1 and post position 9, right? Is the coupled entry in here?
Yes, you're correct.
The mine shaft horse and IRAD's horse. Just wanted to make sure I had that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to be betting this race. I'm going to be totally staying out of it. If you did force me to have anything, I'd probably go to the 2 Cantermassi's, because Cantermassi's been having a very, very good meet, 8 for 29, with a decent sample size, not a big sample size by any stretch, but I like the job that he's been doing, and nobody really here sticks out. Of course, Rob Atras always seems to get his horses to run well through whatever methods that may be, but I'll be taking the 2 and the 9 if I had to pick a horse in here. I will not be betting the race. Race number 3 is a maiden special weight on the dirt, 6 furlongs. This presented a real challenge to me because I don't have a strong opinion, but I'm scared of a lot of horses in here. Jack, is this a race now where you have something?
Yeah, you and Sammy were talking about something before we went on with this race, and I'm going to leave you to your specialty of the first-time starters and not piggyback off of something you're doing. So I'm going to go to something that you guys were talking about, which is the Clement horse in this race, who's getting the surface switch. That's the 7 in here. So I'm going to play that angle just so that we have some variety in the stuff that we're doing on this.
I like the 6 Eli Dancer. I mean, Royal Currency at this point is just a money burner. He has 6 starts, 5 seconds. Last race had a 7-length lead. I mean, but the horse went 45 and just flying out Sister Linda, who's actually turned out to be a decent horse. Came back to win, I think. I'm correct, Andrew? Right?
Yes.
But the 6 Eli Dancer, Camejo has been pretty good this meet. He's only had small sample size, but I mean, this horse should appreciate the second start. And this is a typical race where there's not much to like. I guess the Clement surface switch is an angle you can either going to hit or miss with, so I can see it there. But I'll land on the 6 Eli Dancer.
Yeah, this is an extremely hard race for me because you have two firsters in here who I think can be live, and then you've got this Camejo guy who's 2 for 3, very small sample size. But this horse, this guy, I should say, one of his horses made me a lot of money last Friday, July 1st, to climb partially out of a giant hole that I was in going into the last race. So I have to give him a little respect. Of course, Kristoff. How can I throw Kristoff out? He's Kristoff. I can't. What I worry about Velouz is that he's going to be too far behind. Maybe Rosario could change the style here with the surface switch as well, although I never really have any hopes of Joel Rosario being aggressive. He kind of seems like he randomly chooses when he wants to be aggressive. And then Royal Currency keeps running second, so you have to use him. My original thought was to just throw out Royal Currency and then box these 4 horses, the 1, 2, 6, and 7, the 2 firsters, and then the 2 logical ones I came up with. But I might have to modify that strategy on account of Royal Currency always showing up. Maybe I box the 6, 7, 8 together, and then I play the firsters as savers, since they both have rail posts, and that wouldn't be advantageous unless they're pretty fast, which some of their works indicate they might be fast. We just don't know. 2 pretty good riders there in McCarthy and Jose Ortiz. We'll have to see what they do. This is a race where I really should not be playing a lot of money, and I'm probably going to wind up playing a lot of money. So this is just a really bad situation. I'll be using the 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8 in some way. What way that is, I really don't know. The 4th race is the first graded stake of the card, and it's the first of 4. This is a race that I used to really call for being a grade 1 because this part used to be part of the handicap Triple Crown, I'm pretty sure, back in the day. I don't know if it ever was a grade 1. Jack, do you happen to know if this was ever a grade 1?
It did happen to be a grade 1, yes. I believe it was a grade 1 when St. Liam won it the year he was Horse of the Year. I could be wrong on that, though.
Oh, well, if that's true, then that was actually pretty recent. So it's the Suburban Handicap. It's 1.25 miles, starting on the turn at Belmont, something that people complain about. I'm not sure why. I never really saw it as any kind of issue. Jack, who do you like?
Did not love anybody overly in this race, and I don't love that I'm picking Dynamic One in here because I don't love Union Rag's horses at 1.25 miles, which one of those horses that you would think, given what Union Rags did in his career, would be better going the longer. That's not necessarily the case all the time, but Dynamic One ran really well last time in the Blame Stakes at Churchill. Scalding and Proxy are both quality horses. American Revolution just ran really well behind Olympiad and the Stephen Foster, so he beat the right horses there, and it was the first time in his career he really actually looked good. And I say that, and he's going to immediately not win the race that I pick him in, but I wasn't crazy about anybody else in this spot, and so I had to bite it and go with Dynamic One here.
I mean, I actually agree with Jack. Ever since he turned 4, I felt like he was always going to improve. His challenger was decent, and the Ben Ali was decent, but he really took a step forward in the Blame, where he beat some quality horses. I mean, another angle you could pick is first captain 3 for 3 at the track, 1 for 1 at the distance, but I just prefer a Dynamic One. Not really much to the race, but that's my pick.
Me in here, I do not have a strong opinion. I'm going to take the 2 Pletchers, and I'm going to take Untreated, the one on top. I like the consistency. I know that he lost the first captain. He set the lead. It was a slow pace. I'm just hoping that Todd might have this horse better. And I think he's going to go to the lead again. Maybe this time first captain won't fire. I know he's also coming to a track that he likes in Belmont Park. So that scares me. But I can never, ever bet Shug in any way, include him at all at 8-5. It's just... I like the guy. I like Shug. He just doesn't win with enough favorites for me to ever bet him at this kind of price. And he will be pretty short in here. Dynamic One, I think, will be the favorite. I think Aragona did a pretty good job here. First captain will be in that 2-1 range. So I have to try and get him out. And the way I do it is the dynamic one and this one horse untreated run 1-2 for Pletcher. You really even can't make any money on that, so I guess I'm just giving you picks. If I was doing multi-race bets, I'd probably just use the 1 and the 5. And if I was playing B tickets, which is something I don't do, you could use the 4, but then you're already using 3 out of 5 in a 5-horse field. I'd stick to Pletcher in here. He's been reminding us lately, Todd Pletcher. He had 11 wins in the last 4 days of Belmont. He's reminding everybody that he is still the king of the Belmont Park main track. He still will be for a while longer. So that's my opinions on the Suburban. Nothing fancy and nothing definitive. The 5th race, I feel, is a interesting race. I wish I had a stronger opinion than I do in here. I kind of am just going to stick with the guys I usually play. But let's see if 2 of my other guests have ideas in here.
I don't have anything, so Sammy, you're up.
Actually, this race was interesting to me, but obviously the Maker horse is interesting there. Coming off 3 straight wins, but actually I feel like Advanced Strategy was interesting in the Kingston Stakes. He was just 3 wide, 4 wide, and tired. He actually earned a career high buyer figure, if that made anything. But at a mile and a 16th in March, he had a lead and lost it. But a couple back, if you look at September of 26th of 2020, it was a maiden special way. He got a mile 16th and just took off by length and a quarter, length 3/4, excuse me. And in Aqueduct of 2020, he ran 2nd flying. I just think this horse can get the setup. I think there's a decent amount of speed here, and don't really like too much in this race, so I'll take a shot here with Advanced Strategy.
I'm sorry, Sammy. Let me just go up to this horse right up here. I was thinking, wow, that sounds like a Klarovich name. So I was looking at the 2 Chad horses, and I'm thinking, wow, where were those races? Well, he's talking about the number 1 Advanced Strategy, who is not trained by Chad Brown. Let's make that clear. Sammy likes the 1. I do like Chad Brown in here because I never pick against Chad Brown unless I'm doing it with Christoph. And Big Everest in here, I really like what Rosario did last time. He finally got aggressive with this horse, and it worked out well at a pretty short price on a yielding turf course. He has to go back to firm today, but he does have a win over a firm turf course up at Saratoga. So, of course, I'm going to be using him. And, of course, I'm going to be boxing him with the 2 Chads because doing things like this, picking my guys, is the reason I'm up multiple hundreds of dollars on the meet. Is because I have not been worrying about the PPs and picking other horses. If it doesn't work out, they'll pay me again next time or the time after. 579. Exacta triple box. Done. 6th race. We've got, I believe, a dirt race. Yes, it is. A big high-level allowance in here. And I don't have a strong opinion again, but I'll also be using a trainer angle in here. Let's see if either Jack or Sammy has opinions in the 6th race before we get into the big stakes action.
I might as well just pick her because I picked her every other time. I'll go back to Manchin. I have basically no confidence in her, but you know what? To keep the trend going, why not just say that she's my pick in this race?
Baba for me. I mean, this horse would probably be the favorite in this race if I can guess. Her speed is quick. You got Jose Gomez, who gives you the 5-pound break. Last time he rode her here on May 27th, she won by 5 lengths. There's not really much to this race, so I'll just settle out for her. Maybe the one's a little interesting for Noda and NYRA, because Noda to start the meet was, I don't know, that man might have been hitting at like 60%. No joke. But I'll take Bob in this spot.
Yeah, Noda's another guy, and this horse is also entered in the 8th race on Friday, so we'll have to see if this horse runs the 1 to a T for Noda. Yeah, Noda, I really can't root for him because I don't like the way his horses run, that they suddenly improve out of nowhere. I'm automatically suspicious of guys like that. And don't get me wrong, I've been suspicious of Rudy in the past, and to say that all those suspicions are gone is not true. Then again, I also think that Baba, I pretty much agree with everything Sammy said, is the absolute horse to beat in here. And I think Rudy's other horse can beat him. So, Jose Gomez, Jose Ortiz, I'm going with Rudy in the 6th race in some way. Now we're going to get into the big time turf action. This is the Belmont Oaks Invitational. The filly race at 1.25 miles on the turf. 700 grand, giant purse. No sponsorship for this one. Not like we're going to name the sponsorship in the Belmont Derby, because we're not. But we are going to talk about it, and I feel like this field is fairly wide open. Maybe not as wide open as the Derby is, but this one's almost all of them can win, I think.
Yeah, I think this race is both the turf races, or both the turf grade ones, they're very evenly matched races. Like Andrew said, I would say probably maybe 7 or 8 of these horses could win, and I think legitimately think in the Belmont Derby, all 13 of them can win. But this race is very interesting. There's an angle that I have been really, really wanting to come together in this race ever since Epsom, and it did not come together, which I had kind of put all my cards in that corner of it, the angle coming together. So I've been lost today trying to figure out where I'm going to go. And that I'll just say what that angle is, because there is a possibility that it does happen. But the angle that I was looking for was With the Moonlight. And With the Moonlight was a horse that I liked a lot going into the Oaks at Epsom. Now, I should mention I did not pick her in there, but I thought she could run a somewhat decent race there. She did not. She actually ran last at Epsom. So if you're but I will say about With the Moonlight is being on the lead at Epsom is tantamount to pretty much guaranteeing that you will not run well in a race. Epsom is damn near impossible to win on the lead at. And so when you think about it and say, okay, well, she was going 1, 1.5 miles, and she's cutting back. And 2, she was on the lead at Epsom, which usually does not play out well for horses that are poorly placed there. She is getting slight competition break here. Not that this is an easy race, but she doesn't have to run up against Emily Upjohn on Tuesday. And also, she's getting the inner. And the angle that I was hoping William Buick would come over for this race, and he would ride her, and there would be potential for her to be lone speed, and she'd be able to carry it on the inner turf. William Buick is not here, and also, I don't think she's going to be lone speed. I think you'll see Joseph O'Brien's Argatha potentially, since she pressed the pace in some of her races in Ireland this spring. So I don't think you're going to get lone speed with the Moonlight, and I don't think, and not that Frankie Dettori is an American jockey that would absolutely not send, but I'm just not as confident in that angle playing out as I would have been if William Buick came over. But I do think With the Moonlight is certainly, she's going to get some play. I think that she's absolutely got a chance here. Chad is very, very dangerous with his 3 horses. I think they're all very similarly matched. I also think Cairo Memories is not, don't necessarily overlook her just because she's coming out of California. Her races there were real quality efforts. I just basically said something about every horse, except for Concert Hall, the morning line favorite in this race. I really liked Concert Hall exiting Epsom. I really don't like Concert Hall after last week, or after the effort a couple weeks ago in Ireland, where she was 5th in the Pretty Poly. She was elevated to 4th after a horse was disqualified in there. She did not give a good impression at all in that Pretty Poly Stakes at the Curragh. Ryan Moore didn't give a good ride, but Concert Hall just never picked up at any point in the race. And, I understand why folks are going to like her, because she was keeping really good competition in Europe. Her run in the Oaks was good. Her run in the Irish Guineas was good. And she did, her first start of the year, she was the winner over a horse who came back to win a stake at Royal Ascot. And she's getting a break from running against Tuesday and Emily Upjohn and Group 1 level horses over in Europe. And I understand why folks like that. I can't go to her because that effort in the Pretty Poly, I picked her to win there, and I was expecting her to give a really strong effort there. She did not. She's going to get played a lot here. I can't take her. That said, I don't have my pick yet because I have been delayed in being able to go through my picks. So I will have my preview of this race on Racing Rundown, and I will finally be decided by then. But I don't have my pick yet. The one horse that I will not be picking, though, is Concert Hall, outside of a couple other horses. But that's the one big thing, and I could end up being wrong, but I'm against Concert Hall. I'm not going to say big, but I'm against her in this spot.
Me and Jax think differently, but this Belmont Oaks is actually a pretty good field, more than a good field. I actually landed on Concert Hall here. It's so hard to go against Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien. They did it last year. I mean, I liked her winning back on April 23rd in Ireland. I think that was a good win. Another horse that I think is interesting. Me and Aaron were actually talking about the horse early, and I was like, I don't really like this horse, but what Jack said about Churchill and just thinking about it, McCulloch can actually run pretty well in this race. 6-1 is good value on this horse. Chad Brown is a must-use always in races. It doesn't matter what kind of race it is. You could throw him in a race against Secretary and it's still a must-use. Well, that's an exception, but still. But I actually went with Concert Hall. He almost said Concert Tour, but Concert Hall. I just think she's going to run well. Gartha at 10-1 is value, though. Joseph O'Brien is underrated. I'm glad he's coming to Saratoga. You can look at so many different ways here. I'll give it to Aaron here. See what he likes.
I can't really figure out the Euros yet, but I do like Chad's horses. I can't really separate much, though. Preferably, I like Hottie the most. I think her last race, she clearly improved from 2 to 3. It was a nice warm-up for her, but the question is, how far does she get? Like, I think every Churchill race, I kind of like give them a break, but she ran really well here. She closed quickly, and I thought she still ran well, and she took a big step from 2 to 3. And Consumer Spending has done nothing but win this year. All were impressive. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have here. But of the Euros, I do like Concert Hall the most.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to get into my crazy ideas in this Belmont Oaks. And I'm going to spend a lot of money in this race. Most of the money, I'm going to be agreeing with Aryan out of the three of you guys the most, because I have to play Chad. This is Chad's house on the turf, and I think it's going to stay that way. I like Consumer Spending the most, just because of the two really big races that she's run. But I'm pretty much going to be using all three of them equally in some way. It's going to be hard to put more money on one than the other. And I'm going to box the three of them. And I'm probably going to have the exact at least one extra time. And I'm going to have the triple at least one extra time with the three of them. Now, of the Euros, I have to go to Appleby, just because of his record the last 2 years. Last year, he won half his races, and that doesn't even count the horses that were his own that he beat. And he ran second twice, too, with Summer Romance losing to Althea. But I'm going to play a little bit. Now, that's already a lot of money, right? That's $26.40 just to box those four horses, the 1, 3, 4, and 5. That'll be the main play. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of a saver bet, just in case this happens. I'm going to box the 4 with the 9 and the 10, because it covers the O'Brien father and son with Appleby. So if the Europeans manage to just roll in this race, I think that it will be those three that do it. I'm not wasting my time and going through the replays of the other Euros in here, the other two. Whatever. If they beat me, they beat me. It has happened once before. And as far as Cairo memories, yes, this horse does have 2 really good races out in California. But contrary to what Jack said, I'm not picking. I can't pick California turf horses going against East Coast turf horses. And I certainly can't pick them when they're being ridden by Mike Smith, who occasionally pulls a really good turf ride out of his ass. But normally, he looks like an idiot on the turf course. So maybe today's the day like last year on Belmont Day, I get proven wrong, at least in one of the races. Then in the second race he rode in on the turf, he did ride like an idiot. So it was only half true that he was good last year. We'll see what happens. This is a mess of a race. A lot of these horses can win. I think the two Euros that are both listed at 20 to 1 are a little hard to come by. But Brendan Walsh has beaten me before too with this 6-horse New Year's Eve. Ugh, this is just bad. So in a race that's bad, I'm going to stick to what I know and go with Chad and Appleby and then play that little backup bet that I told you about. So we now move on to the 8th race, which is a little bit of a lull, you might say. It's the Victory Ride. It's on the dirt. It's 6.5, and it's only a 7-horse field, so maybe we get to kind of take a little bit of a breath here. Where did you land on in the Victory Ride, Jack?
I went to half is enough in here. This race has the potential to blow up, and if you listen to Racing Rundown, Eric is playing this race on the chance that it blows up. I'm taking half is enough here just because the record that she's put together up to this point is pretty strong, and I'm going to swallow that. I'm afraid that it's going to happen, and then if it happens and the horse that Eric picked ends up winning, I'm going to feel like a giant idiot, but I'm going to play that just because the wins have been very nice for her. She does have to step up and into graded stakes company, and it is going to be a bit of a tough ask, but I'm going to take that chance for her in this race.
I feel like over the years, you really notice, if people have noticed over the years, you always have that race where you say, it's going to blow up. This race is going to blow up. You have 6 speed horses, and you open the race, there's only one horse on lead. I absolutely love Hot Peppers in this spot. I really liked her Jersey Girl win. It was very impressive. And she just wins, man. Rudy's really good with this horse. She reminds me a little bit of Bella Sophia, but I don't think she's as good as Bella Sophia. But she just reminds me of her. Time will just tell. But that I really like that win. If I get 4 to 1 with this horse, I'll be very happy.
If I get 4 to 1 on this horse, I'm going to be ecstatic. Now, there's a reason I say that with Hot Peppers. All the reasons that Sammy mentioned can happen. I agree. Now, there is a lot of speed in here, and I'm worried about that. However, Luis Saez, this meet, to me, he's only winning at 17%. However, I think he's been riding better than that 17%. And he's shown a really good ability to be a stalker this meet and to sit off the pace when needed and to show adaptability. I think Saez is going to have a choice when those gates open. I think he has a choice. He can go to the lead because this horse has the speed to get to the lead. Or he can let the other 2 that are just inside of him, Happy Soul and Pretty Birdie, or maybe if it's just one of them, let's say one of them breaks slow, or Rosario is not aggressive, like he is a bunch of the time, and he takes that horse back, maybe Hot Peppers gets that perfect stalking trip right in behind. I definitely think that you have the perfect rider for this horse. And I think 4 to 1 is a price that you probably won't get. But if I do get it, I'm going to be playing this horse to win. I'm also, no matter what the price is, I'm going to be playing this horse in and out both ways in the daily double. And hopefully that cashes, because if nothing else happens, I'll be dead in this race. I am singling this 6 horse all the way in here. Hot Peppers for Rudy. Up next is the air quotes big one. It's not the big one for me. You'll see why when we get to the 10th, but it's the Belmont Derby. This is a 13-horse field where, as Jack said, I pretty much agree with him. Almost all of them could win. I have a hard time seeing a couple of the foreigners again, but nobody in here has shown to be a standout. So, Jack, I'm going to let you try to start making sense of this race.
Oh, this race is very difficult. I'm still tearing my hair out to try to figure it out, and I have to figure it out so that I can do a preview for this race. So this is a warm-up for this. I'm going to start off with potential pace scenarios here. The gentlemen who are accompanying me on the show are to different degrees, but think that there is a possibility that Emmanuel can win this race on the lead. And that is certainly a possibility. You should be very wary of Emmanuel stealing this race on the front end. I just talked about that with my potential angle with the Godolphin filly in the Belmont Oaks, and that's certainly a possibility here. However, I don't think that that's going to happen in this race the way that I have drawn it up and the way that we drew it up on Racing Rundown, because there is at least one other horse that can go with Emmanuel early and potentially more. Obviously, the big one is Classic Causeway. If you remember, I'll talk from the Kentucky Derby speed horse. He didn't make the lead in the Derby, but assuming he breaks, he has the speed to keep up with Emmanuel in this race. And I would think that they would have to send him to the lead because that's what they do with him all the time. And I will say, it's not crazy for Classic Causeway to be in this race. Maybe it's a little bit ridiculous for him to be here coming out of the Ohio Derby. Maybe they should have just gone right to this race. But it makes sense. His full sister to Classic Causeway with the same pedigree was a winner on the turf. So Classic Causeway can get the turf. He's well bred to do that. So don't read too much into that. The horse can get the turf, just like Emmanuel can get the turf, obviously. But the other horse that I think could potentially be a player in here is the 8 Royal Patronage. Now, if you remember my stuff that I did leading into Epsom, Royal Patronage was a horse that I actually liked quite a bit. I have certainly cooled off on him since Epsom. There were a couple horses that I liked going into Epsom, Royal Patronage and With the Moonlight. I don't like either of them post Epsom, but Royal Patronage set the pace in the Guineas, and he did run a very strong effort behind Desert Crown and the Dante at York, the lead up into, and Desert Crown's lead up into the Derby. And Royal Patronage did run a couple of strong races when he was a 2-year-old. And so he does have some good form. I would not be surprised if he was put in the game early. Now, with Joel Rosario on board, you have to balance risk versus reward. And I wouldn't depend, if you're playing this race with, and him going to the lead as a linchpin, then bet on him not going to the lead as opposed to going to the lead. That's just the way that I would do it given Joel Rosario's tendencies. But if Royal Patronage is up there making sure that Emmanuel and Classic Causeway are being honest, then that certainly could bode well for some of the horses underneath in here. I'll get to the other two major Europeans. The first one, Stone Age, for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, the Ballydoyle entrant and Ballydoyle / Peter Brandt entrant in this race. He was very well fancied going into the Derby. He was the second choice behind Desert Crown. He won the Derby trial in Ireland very impressively. And I compared him to Bolshoi Ballet, the way that he was kind of leading up into the Derby in terms of he was getting played for a while before the Dante. It looked like that he might have been the favorite. And I say that for a while. The Dante was 4 days after the Derby trial. But it looked like he was going to be that Aidan O'Brien horse that gets hyped and played to all hell in Europe and runs up the track at Epsom. Now, he did do the run up the track part, but he didn't get bet to all hell in there. And that's when I say he's very Bolshoi Ballet-y, I mean that in terms of the way that he was played in the markets. Now, Bolshoi Ballet came here and won the Belmont Derby last year. So that certainly, that would on the surface mean that I'm giving a compliment to Stone Age, but I don't think Stone Age is running against as bad of a group of horses in this Belmont Derby as Bolshoi Ballet is. Now, I've given the indication I'm playing against Stone Age. I'm also taking a sabbatical from picking Ryan Moore in Grade 1 races because Ryan Moore, whenever I pick him, rides like an absolute moron. So that's the other reason why I'm not, but not the primary reason. The other horse that was also well fancied going into the Derby was Nation's Pride. Nation's Pride, very similar, had a very nice victory in the Newmarket Stakes, and he actually wasn't initially entered in the Derby. He had to be supplemented out of that, but Charlie Appleby and Godolphin thought highly enough of him. They already had 2 horses entered in the Derby. They supplemented him to give them a 3rd runner there, and it should also be mentioned in that Newmarket Stakes that he won in a procession. The runner-up there, Huya Mao, was the runner-up at Epsom, and when you take the horses coming out of Epsom, obviously Desert Crown was great. The 3rd place finisher, Westover, won the Irish Derby in a procession. So the form from Epsom, even though overall I'm not in love with the 3-year-olds overseas, the form from Epsom has come back to be pretty good. There are a couple other horses that have won exiting Epsom. So there is certainly sound logic in Nation's Pride and Stone Age. Getting to some of the Americans, though. the horse that I like the best of the Americans in terms of from a playing angle. Now, this doesn't mean that he's my pick, or if you told me to pick an American, I would pick him. But from a playing the race perspective, is Limited Liability. I said after the Pennine Ridge, I would really like him to get out to 1.25 miles and preferably further. The race that I said for him that I'd want to pick him in is the Jockey Club Derby. Now, we're forecasting 2.5 months ahead, but I think giving him more distance is certainly going to do him some good things. You can kind of say the same thing about Grand Sonata. He's a horse that I've picked the past couple of times. So you can kind of view those two interchangeably. Tiz the Bomb was Eric's pick on Racing Rundown. We have yet to see him on the turf this year, but we know that he handles the turf really, really well, as demonstrated by his runs last year. Runner-up in the Breeders' Cup behind the French Guineas winner, Modern Games. And, you know, if you had a win bet on Tiz the Bomb because of that crap that happened at the Breeders' Cup, you got your win bet there. One horse I haven't talked about yet is Napoleonic War, because I'm not really too interested in Napoleonic War in this race. I know that Andrew is definitely going to be using him because Chad is Andrew's guy, and the logic is absolutely there. But just the way that I'm drawing this race up, Napoleonic War doesn't really factor into it here. So I threw a lot of stuff out there. I also didn't even mention Clement. I think Clement, or I'm sorry, not Clement, Motion. I did not mention Motion. I'm sure Motion will get mentioned at some point, but I'm going to leave Side Dog to the others on this. My pick here is going to be Nation's Pride, just because the victory in the Newmarket Stakes was a very, very strong effort. Now, the one thing is Stone Age did finish in front of him at Epsom, and I feel like they're kind of evenly matched with each other. But as I said, I don't like Ryan Moore, and I especially don't like Ryan Moore at Belmont Park. I know that's kind of counterintuitive given that he won the races last year, but he definitely made his races last year at Belmont Park a lot more difficult than they needed to be. And as I said, I'm on a sabbatical from picking Ryan Moore. So Nation's Pride is my pick in this race. I don't know what kind of price he's going to be because the morning line is, I don't think the morning line is reflective of how this race is going to be played. And that's not a diss on David Aragona. This is probably a damn difficult race to make a morning line for, but Limited Liability, I'm going to play him in some facet in this race. And I do like Royal Patronage because I have been waiting the opportunity to bet him, and I think he can float, but I don't know whether or not I'm going to play him or include him in any kind of exotics, but I would say Royal Patronage is one that I would consider to use, but Nation's Pride is my pick in this race.
This Belmont Derby is a very deep field. I mean, this might be one of the best, if not the best Belmont Derby field we've ever had, because pretty much every horse has a chance. But I actually like Emmanuel in this race. This horse is just a classic example. Before the show we went on, I was just like, this horse is a classic example of a solid dirt horse, goes on turf and just dominates. And I think this horse really is taking a step up. I really like that Pennine Ridge performance. Is he going to get that same lead again? I don't know. But I don't know if it's going to matter because I think this horse can sit off the pace a little bit if it's needed. And Irad, the best rider in the country, trust him the most. Nation's Pride was also interesting because I really like his wins at 1.25 miles have been really impressive. 3 lengths, 3 1/4, and 7 lengths. You could really go anywhere in this race. Grand Sonata, me and Aaron have a funny story about him, but that's just a joke. Classic Causeway. David Arquette actually put out a tweet. So somebody actually tweeted him off topic. He's like, "Why didn't you make the horse 30-1?" He's like, "That's what he should be." Probably referring to he couldn't make him 30-1 because horse is going to get bet down because everyone knows the Classic Causeway is from the Derby Trail. We could go so many ways in here, but I'm gonna go with Emmanuel here, and Stone Age was interesting too. I think the Kazoo Derby was obviously disappointing, but his Derby trial was very impressive. His win back before that was very impressive, and his second in the St. Cloud at St. Cloud was decent too. So you could go so many ways in this race, and you're gonna get, if you hit this race, you're gonna get paid. That's for sure.
Aaron, it's your turn.
All right, so the Americans are gonna get killed here. That's the first thing that popped up in my head. But the only American that stuck out to me was Napoleonic War. I personally never really liked this horse. But looking back, I saw his races. He's had trouble in all of them pretty much, especially the last 2 stakes. And at Keeneland, he got a horrendous trip. He didn't have much of a shot there. And then a few weeks ago in the Pennine Ridge, Emmanuel got everything his own way. This horse he had the track, and he still almost got up to beat Emmanuel. But so I think if he gets enough of some pace, which he should get, I think he's like I trust him the most of the Americans. But of the Euros, I thought obviously Nation's Pride and Stone Age are the two standouts. But I looked at this horse Machete. I've never heard of him, but I saw his last two have been against Vendetti, who's arguably the top horse in Europe right now. He just beat Mishriff and Native Child in the Eclipse. He finished second to him over firm grass. And Belmont, compared to what he's running over there in Europe, he should have handled the Belmont grass just fine. So I thought he was very interesting at 20-1. And another horse that interested me was Nation's Pride, because I heard a rumor that Modern Games was supposed to be here, but it still looks like he wasn't sent here because they sent Nation's Pride. And I never realized how good this horse was until now. His last race he was just off form, but he should still hold up very well against these horses. And Stone Age, he does. Jack said he reminds him of Bolshoi Ballet. I see the comparison, but I feel like this horse could be a bit better. And he's 9-2 on the morning line. I think that's a good price, but it probably wouldn't stand. So I like him, but I'd probably not play him to win the most. I'd personally go Machete and Napoleonic War. Those would be my top two to try and make some money on them.
Okay.
Do you want me to add some context? Oh, sorry, Andrew. I was just going to say, do you want me to add some context about the French Derby, because I have some I don't want to say insight, but since I looked at the race beforehand and feel like I have a pretty good read on Vidani, I can give some context on Machete.
Go ahead, please.
Sure.
Okay, so Vidani is tragically overrated. He, first of all, should not have won the Eclipse, but we don't need to get into that. And the underneath of the French Derby is just horrific. So that's just because I want to give some read on them. Vidani, again, like I said, tragically overrated, and the field underneath, Modern Games, is a miler. He was going too far there, and just everybody else underneath in the French Derby was just really bad. So I understand why you make the play, but I just want to throw out there, since I do have some read on Machete. The read that I had on him is that he's coming out of a very weak race, and the winner of that isn't as good as an Eclipse win that he really shouldn't have won would indicate.
Yeah, that's interesting, but I just feel like he's not back in Europe against those top horses. He's getting much more class relief here. I think he'd still be fine, even with that fact.
Okay, and with everybody getting their opinions out of the way, I'm going to kind of be blending almost all of what you guys said, because, I mean, I don't know if the Napoleonic War is your top choice, Aaron, but if he is, I'm going to be pretty much boxing the top three choices, the top choice that each one of you guys made. I'm going to put Napoleonic War on top because I think this is finally the race. Well, first of all, I'm putting him on top because he's Chad Brown. I wonder if that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it does, and because it's me. Yeah, I'm going to put him on top, and I think he finally might get a decent trip. Now, he could run into trouble again, because he's going to be stalking in behind the leaders, but he's got a damn good rider in Pratt to do it with. I'm not scared of him getting stuck in there. Hopefully he finds a hole, and I do like that he's had some trouble. Actually, the race that he won, that allowance race on May 5th, is, of the last three races he's run, between that little break in January and that race in April, the stakes race he was entered in, first time stakes, yeah, that was the race I hated the most because I thought he was really flat in there, and he should have won that race by a lot more. I think last time he had an excuse, and we already talked about the Transylvania, Aaron did. So I'm going to be using him. I don't think you're going to get 10-1 because it's Chad. I think you'll get 7 though, and I think 7-1 is good enough for me. I'm going to be putting Applebee's 10 second in here for all the reasons you guys mentioned and because of Applebee's record. I'm a guy who likes ones. I like those 4 wins overseas. That's impressive to me. Emmanuel, if he manages to wire this field, I think he will make the lead personally. And just the dynamics of these inner turf races, they tend to hold together on the front end usually. So I think he'll be up there. And I hate to say this, but he kind of did impress me a little bit in the Pennine Ridge. I know he ran really slow. That his fractions were really slow up front. But I really thought Napoleonic War was going to run him down pretty easy, and he didn't do it. So I have to give him a little bit of respect. And this pattern also repeated itself with Pletcher's filly last year, who was a front runner in what's that race on Thursday before the Belmont Stakes for the fillies?
The Wonder Again.
The Wonder Again. And then that horse ran a really good second on the lead in the Belmont Oaks as well. So it's kind of a similar situation there. But this is a true front runner in Emmanuel in his last 2 races. Actually, 4 of his 5 career races. And then I'm just going to stick Motion in there for 4th. Not as anything confident. Because I've bet Side Dog twice before now already. Once at Aqueduct back in the fall as part of a multi-race bet when he wanted a short price. And then in the American Turf last time I played him as well. I also played Stolen Base, so it worked out okay for me in that race. Not as good as it could have. But I'll use him just to get 4th. He's got a if you look at the time form US pace, I think he will be running very, very strong late. He's got, I believe it's the highest late pace figure in the race of the ones that do have those, because of course the Europeans do not, because they did not run in the US. So 3, 10, 11, 7 for me. I'm scared of limited liability a little bit, but I'm also not scared of him because I can't bet McGahee, and I leave McGahee out. Sometimes he beats me, a lot of times he doesn't. And then O'Brien, I don't know. I don't like Ryan Moore for all the reasons Jack talked about, and 13 post, I'll just skip that with him. And if he beats me, he beats me. He's not going to beat me at a big price because he is going to get bet down from that 9 to 2. Geez, we must have talked about that race for 20 minutes. Anyway, we've got the 10th here. We're finally out of the stakes action. But to me, this is the race of the day. This is the one where even if I'm down through the first 9 a lot, which there's a very good chance of that, I feel like I could still come back in here. Jack, Sammy, anything?
I'm going to toss it back to you because I'm on the same thing that you're on, and I want to give you the floor with that. So when it's time for you, have fun.
Frank Sart to the moon. That's all I gotta say.
Frank Sart to the moon! To the moon! Christoph Förster. I mean, this is it. This is what we do. This is what I do. I had a horse on yesterday. We're recording this Tuesday night. I said I was going to play $10 to win on both Christoph horses that I liked on the 4th of July. I wound up not betting because I kind of made a promise the day before after I made all that money back in the Chad Mott triple. Said, all right, I won't do it. Both those horses won. I would have made a $42 profit on the day, and most of it was because of Christoph Förster in that race for Merrylegs Farm, who has a good relationship with. This one, Christoph owns himself. To me, there's only one thing to be scared of here, and that is Joel Rosario. I'm very scared about him. I'm not scared about the horse. I think even if he's further behind, he's going to come running late. Will he get there? I don't know. But to me, this is the standout, must-play, slam win bet horse of the day. I don't even know what his odds are going to be. The other horses in this race are not that good, so I'd imagine that he's probably going to be a pretty relatively short price. Maybe we get 6 to 1. I'm hoping at least we get that, because Chad will take money in here. Salt K is my second choice, getting to the turf for the first time. I'm happy with that. Behind that, I'm just going to use the other notable firster in here, Horatio DePaz, who does marvelous work with first-time starters, Independent Paul. I'd imagine you get a decent price on him. There's one more first-time starter in the race. You could tell this is my angle. Well, this is what's made me probably 3/4 of the money this meet is first-time starters. Michelle Nevin does not tend to win first time out. You can see the 205 ROI. That's from a bomb or two, I guess. 5% out of 37 starts. So a few wins there. I guess 2 wins, actually. I can't play that horse. That horse beats me. Whatever. Maybe if he goes off at 50 to 1, I'll have $1 win and show on him. That's about it. These other horses have had chances. To me, this race is 3, 4, 7 box. Slam the 4. It's that simple. And with that being said, I guess a little period of silence there. Let's move on to the 11th race. This is unfortunate because this is a race that I'd really want to have an opinion on, because if I lose everything, I'd want to have something in here. I'm just going to take the 2 Wesley Ward drop downs, Sheriff Bianco, and After 5 in here. I don't really have anything creative. You guys?
I'm with you.
I don't have anything.
I'm with Andrew here. Sheriff Bianca probably should win this race. After 5-2, one of them should win. There's not really anything in this race. So
yeah, I'd pick Sheriff Bianco as well if I was forced. So I think Sheriff Bianco made me money one time. Forget. Yes, when he was behind Phantom Smoke last fall, October 9th at Belmont. That was the day that Chad ran 1-2 in the Joe Hirsch, and it was the day that Zandon won in his first race. Fun facts. That's it, everybody. What a video we just did. That was a long one, but I hope it was a good one. And we're wrapping up this Belmont meet, which I have to say, they opened the 3rd floor. The racing's been good. Maybe I'm so happy because I'm actually doing well for the first time in my life and doing really well and reaping actual monetary rewards. But I had a great time this meet. What do you guys think about the meet? Are you sad it's coming to an end? Are you, of course, excited for Saratoga?
Nah. To a certain extent, but we'll be back at some point. I hope it's sooner rather than later. But you know, Saratoga is fun, and we'll be back at some point.
Yep, we will be back to Belmont at some point. That exact date, we don't know yet. We will find out what happens when they release the fall stakes schedule. But that's it. Sammy, Aaron, Jack, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed all the videos throughout the Belmont Spring Summer Meet. I did not add any extra ones that I showed on the meet preview. I just did the ones that I promised. I had plenty of other stuff to do to keep me busy, so I didn't feel the need to make extra videos. I think they've been a relative success. I'm sure the strike rate probably isn't that high, but we've had a few really nice winners on here. So I hope you guys took something away from them, and even if you didn't, maybe at least you just made fun of us for being wrong. But with that said, enjoy this weekend, guys. You really have a chance to make some good money here. Pay your bills first. May the odds be ever in your favor, and we will see you for an episode of One Turn Route coming soon, and I'm sure at least a couple of videos up at Saratoga. Go eat some turf and go win.